Man is composed of three principal parts: spirit, mind, and body. Body, in turn, is divided into vehicles and essences. The essences are divided into two distinct divisions: a distillation of body consciousness, which is commonly called the soul, and the archetypes or the molds. These molds are often referred to as patterns and architectural plans, after which the bodies are shaped and fanned. The vehicle or bodies of man are 4 in number, each having its respective mold into which it is cast while in a fluidic or immutable condition. These bodies are named the physical body, composed of solids, liquids, and gases; the vital body, composed of 2 atomic substances and 2 elemental essences; the astral or emotional body, composed of 7 straight of volatile fire atoms called asteroids; and the mental body, composed of 2 major divisions designated as Rupa and Arupa by the Hindus, and more commonly known as the worlds of formed and unformed thought, or concrete and abstract mind. These 4 bodies constitute both the chain of vehicles, which we know as the inferior nature of man, and the invisible causal bodies which act and react in or through physical substance. In India, these bodies are called a string of beads, through which the life thread or consciousness runs, connecting them all together. This thought is beautifully expressed by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. From the macrocosmic man radiate the 4 areas of activity which result in the forming of the body chain. From the mouth of the Adamic prototype was ejected Brahma, the mind-born, as a personification of the ancient element of air. Without the element of fire and light, its manifestation, air was colorless, and was referred to by the ancients as the true blackness. This was called the crown of chaos by the great Robert Flood. It is the true darkness which precedes light, and may be truly called the womb of the cosmos. It should be remembered that this figure merely represents Brahma in the aspect of Shiva, or the creator of the form world. He becomes the 4-headed cherubim, described by Josephus, and also the Hindu Brahman in his 4-headed aspect, after the 5th head, Akasha, had been destroyed by Shiva. In simpler words, the figure represents the lower planes of our planetary and solar systems, those rates of vibratory force which react tangibly or intangibly upon the substances cognized by intelligence, sense, or sensation. We know that our scheme of worlds began as thought forms, or as science pleases to call them, dark nebula. This darkness is the substance from which were differentiated the mind bodies of the present human race. The word substance in this case refers to the intangible mass of mentoids which compose the mind body of the archetypal atom. At the present time, the lords of mind, or the formless air devas, function in bodies composed of this attenuated substance, which Herbert Spencer defines as the basis of thought power. It was from the darkness of this primum hyle that the invisible universe was differentiated. When the dark nebula, in the process of their strivings, were brought into visibility through the glowing light created by the friction of the dark atoms. This thought then awoke feeling, and the fire worlds were born, and our system, celestial and terrestrial, existed as a flaming nebula. the occult philosophers agree partly with the theory now known as the nebular hypothesis concerning the origin of our solar system. They teach, however, that the planets are never actually thrown from the parent sun or the nucleus, but really remain as individualizing centers within the auric body of the parent globe. The fire worlds, according to the Brahmins, were born from the arms and shoulders of the archetypal man. They were called the red suns or the fireborn, and the twisting and seething of flame was considered symbolic of their strivings. They represent the astral or emotional body of man, for all of the fire in human nature is an expression of the eternal principle of fire in the cosmic man. Feeling then gave birth to impulse, vitality was established, and the brown man was born from the viscera of the divine prototype. He was the water-born. He was ordained to labor in the fields and stores, for he was the principle of strength and of energy. Geologists know, as do astronomers, that when the planets were in process of cooling, great clouds of mist surrounded the molten globe. This humid ether was regarded by the ancients as the veils of the world virgin. Under its influences were individualized the moon-faced gods, or shades and shadows. It corresponds with the vital body of man. And finally, the crystallization of humidity resulted in the formation of the solid earth, referred to as the black man, often called in India the Sudra, or the creature born into slavery, doomed to live in chains until the night of the gods dissolved its shackles. This is the physical body of all things, which bears witness through its functions and powers to its quaternary constitution. It's interesting to see how closely the mythology of the Brahmins coincides with the latest discoveries of science. In the ancient Buddhist hymns, we find many references to the unfolding atoms. Thousands of years before the Christian era, the Tibetans knew that an atom was a solar system, but because ideas were expressed symbolically, the Oriental minds have never received proper credit for their philosophical penetration. As the universe began as a dark nebula of mind stuff, so man, the little universe, built in the image of his Father and bearing witness to the functions of his creative pattern, also began his physical manifestation as a mineral thought form. Later, he appeared as a fiery plant, and gradually, after many ages of transition, this plant became a sacred animal composed of a body of humid ether. Later, like his celestial archetype, he incarnated into a physical substance as a human creature. As a thought form, he had but one body. As an astral plant, he had two bodies, one composed of mind ether and the other of fire ether. As an etheric sacred animal, he added to those two a body of water ether. And as a human being, he adds a fourth composed of chemical dense physical ether. Man remains in the physical world, according to the ancient wisdom, for approximately 800 earth lives, during which time he passes through an infinite diversity of human forms and environments, and he learns to master the various organic qualities from which dense physical vehicles are manufactured. His great work during that time is to master the element of earth and gradually to incorporate into his water, fire, and air bodies the qualities and essences which he extracts from the experiences in the substance. Man yet still has three higher bodies, which are invisible but nevertheless all-powerful. Without the vital body, he would be a mineral, for the stones and the metals have not individualized any of the vehicles above the physical dense structure. At the present time, the fire, air, and water bodies of man are manifesting only through the physical or earthly organism, where the air body gives power of thought, the fire body the power of motion and emotion, and the water body the power of reproduction and of growth. Therefore, while unseen, there are many manifestations and functions which bear witness to the power of man's invisible constitution. Occultists call the dark air body the mental sheath, the flaming fire body the astral sheath, the human water body the vital sheath, the physical body the dense chemical sheath. These bodies, one within the other and interpenetrating each other, compose what the human mind recognizes as its vehicle of consciousness. Through the mental body, man secures that reflection and thought which makes him greater than the animal. Through the astral body, he secures those qualities of motion and emotion, sense, color, and feeling, and any other qualities the expression of which make the animal superior to the plant. Through the etheric body, he gains the power of reproducing his species and also the functions of assimilation and excretion, for in these things the plant is greater than the mineral. Of course, the mineral, by its actual existence, proves its superiority over the myriads of swirling, gaseous, formless essences which have not yet even the power of appearing in the physical world. Through the channels offered by this quaternary constitution, the consciousness, or ego, or spirit, views, cognizes, senses, and reflects upon its environments. The bodies may be called the hands and the feet of the spirit. They are the tools by means of which the abstract workman produces a concrete result. The physical and the etheric bodies may be called the feet, for they are the foundation and the base. The astral and the mental bodies may be called the hands, for they are the vehicles of attraction, repulsion, and ingenuity. The spirit, while superior to all of its bodies, is incapable of manifesting without its chain of vehicles. This divine spark must always be limited by the quality of its bodies. In all too many cases, it is the servant of its own dependencies. Instead of ruling its world by apostolic succession, the spirit is generally bowed and broken by the endless demands of the lower nature. The appetites, desires, and selfish propensities cast the spirit into a dungeon, while a false and cruel monarch rules the empire in his stead. Some of the ancient Greeks symbolized man and his body by the human hand. The 4 fingers represented the body and its 4 major divisions, while the thumb, which works with none of the fingers, but is useful because it is against the fingers in all of its functions, is used to symbolize the consciousness. In Scripture it is stated that God has set himself against his children. It is also interesting to note that man is the only creature that has a thumb working against the fingers. And even the highest simians, the thumb works with the fingers, being in reality only an extra digit. Some ancients have even correlated the 3 phalanges of the thumb with the Trinity. The first, or distal, phalanx included the nail, which held sacred to the Father, and its size and shape was used in determining willpower. The second phalanx was considered when analyzing the mental and reflective powers of the subject, while the third phalanx, which was usually large and forms part of the palm of the hand, when overdeveloped, was considered a symbol of a strong animal or a strong physical nature, being sacred to the Holy Ghost or the East Indian Shiva. These 5 parts, the consciousness and its 4 bodies, were symbolized by the 5-pointed star or the pentagram. This was known to medieval alchemy as the sign of the cloven hoof, and also as the Star of Bethlehem. The average individual does not realize that life, consciousness, and intelligence are separate and apart from physical substance, merely functioning through chemical bodies during the temporary span which we call in the chemical world. One of the great occult laws is that to function in any sphere or plane of substance and nature, you must have a body sensitive to and capable of adjustment with that plane of substance. The student must realize that each body is capable of domineering over the others, and also of being dominated by superior or stronger forces. To abnormally develop any phase of the nature is to create a tyrant that, because of superior strength, will vampirize and tyrannize over all other parts of the nature. It is the power given by wisdom and knowledge that makes the occultist superior to the fellow man, his superiority being proportionate to his superior intelligence. In every walk of life, the uninitiated will be confronted with mysteries. To the average person, the working of a gasoline engine is just as mysterious as calculus would be to a kindergarten child. But intimate relationship and study result in that familiarity which gives ease in handling and intelligence in directing. It has been well said that no man is a stranger to his own valet. The philosopher is a servant of God, and by perfect serving soon becomes capable of thoroughly understanding the desires and dictates of his divine master. There is a real science even in pegging shoes. Only after years of apprenticeship can man hope to master any craft. In spite of the terrible caste system in India, it is interesting to note that an individual who excels even in the simplest thing is given recognition, and may mingle with those in a superior caste. There are but few who excel in anything, while of mediocre people in all walks of life the number is legion or many. Have you ever watched an individual who is handling with impunity tremendous units of electrical energy? And if so, you will realize that knowledge is power. The electrician is safe because he knows the laws governing the thing with which he is working. But should the electrician become careless for a moment, or a person who knows nothing of electricity attempts to do the same thing, he courts instant destruction. The laws of nature obey no man. They know neither virtue nor vice. Like the one-eyed Cyclops of the Greeks, they are giants that fulfill their predestined work, unmoved by the right or wrong use of their forces. The wise man obeys the law of the substances with which he is working, and thereby causes these substances to work for him. But let him for one instant break the laws of the energies which he is controlling, and they destroy him without compunction or discrimination. An occultist is an expert in the science of life. As an operative magician, he is able to manipulate the forces of nature to the gratification of whatever end he may desire. But woe to him if those ends are not in harmony with the natural plan. By means of his knowledge, he may work miracles, like the magicians of India, but his feats are miraculous only to those who do not know as much as he does concerning the subtle forces of nature. The control which knowledge gives over ignorance on the spiritual planes of nature is very much like the control that wealth gives over poverty in the physical world. Wealth may be a blessing, or it may be a curse. So may knowledge, which is mental wealth. The wise man will always be a master of the fool, for he has a mentality which is capable of demanding respect, and the fool must bow down to that thing which he cannot comprehend.